I got this from a friend who lives in the community. I heard that the son, Nick, went into his parents' house, both mom and dad, and that the daughter, I guess, lives on the property or at the house or in the back house, and that she found them, and that the mom was still alive, and apparently she called the ambulance and went in the ambulance with her mother.
It all started like a fairy tale straight out of Hollywood, but it ended with heartbreak no one saw coming. The Reiners seemed like the perfect family everyone admired. Rob Reiner, the legendary filmmaker behind unforgettable classics, his wife, Michelle, the calm center of their home, and their kids who grew up surrounded by creativity, fame, and love. But behind all the red carpet smiles, the tension had been quietly building for years until one December night, everything spiraled into chaos that left Hollywood stunned. Now their son, Nick Reiner, finds himself at the center of a shocking case that's torn the family apart, while his sister, Romy, insists the truth isn't what people think. Secrets, guilt, loyalty, and legacy all crash together in one of the most haunting Hollywood family dramas ever. The real story behind what happened inside the Reiner home remains tangled, mysterious, and deeply unsettling.
But a dying declaration comes in over hearsay objections. So if Romy Reiner is actually going to take the stand and repeat that her mother told her as she laid that it was Romy's brother, Nick. Oh my God.
Rob, known for decades as the man who brought heartfelt stories of love and family to life, suddenly found his own family story turned upside down with heartbreak and confusion. For years, Rob's son, Nick, had battled personal struggles that drew public attention and left the family under intense pressure. A local source from their community shared what people were whispering about that night. "I heard that the son, Nick, went into his parents' home. There was a violent confrontation, and that the daughter, who lived nearby, discovered them afterward. The mother was still conscious, and she called for help and rode with her in the ambulance." No one could have predicted just how tense things had gotten before everything finally broke apart. Now investigators are digging deep into old interviews and past comments Nick made about his dad, and some of those words hint that tension had been simmering long before that unforgettable night. The night that changed everything for Rob and his wife Michelle Singer Reiner took place on December 13th, 2025, a date that was supposed to be filled with music, laughter, and joy. That evening, the couple attended a huge holiday party hosted by Conan O'Brien, surrounded by Hollywood stars, close friends, and a room full of festive spirit. But even with all that sparkle, something beneath the surface felt off. Witnesses later claimed that an intense argument broke out between Rob and Nick. It wasn't quiet, and it definitely wasn't subtle. Voices were raised, faces tightened, and the tension was thick enough to make the whole room uneasy. Several people later said Nick's behavior that night seemed unusual, describing him as restless and unpredictable. But here's the part that truly stunned everyone. Nick is now standing firm, saying he's innocent of anything that happened that night. And according to some reports, his sister Romy might have known something before it all unfolded. As one insider put it, "If you look at Romy, you can tell she knew." Reportedly, she was the one who contacted authorities and said, "Check out Nick." Nick, however, insists the real story began with Romy herself. He claims she twisted the situation against him, and that he's been unfairly blamed ever since. Something about that night just didn't make sense.
Then you have this from Billy Bush, who of course is a great entertainment reporter in particular, weighing in on the fact that Romy Reiner, who is, I think, only 19 or 20, she's the one who found her parents.
By the next morning, gossip from the Christmas party had spread across Hollywood faster than wildfire. One guest claimed Nick had everyone walking on eggshells, and that line quickly became the talk of the town. Investigators began connecting the dots, trying to uncover what really went down during those tense hours before things took a shocking turn. Rob Reiner didn't back away. He faced the moment head-on, doing everything he could to calm his son instead of pretending everything was fine. always the heart of the family, stayed right by his side through every second of tension, steady and loyal as ever. The two of them worked together like a team, doing whatever it took to keep the night from spiraling out of control. When Rob and Michelle decided to leave the party, they didn't storm off in anger. They slipped away quietly, with a calm determination, like they were trying to lead Nick out of the spotlight, away from the cameras and curious eyes, to handle things privately at home. To those watching, it looked like two caring parents trying to protect their family from more public attention and embarrassment. Tragically, reports say that Michelle passed away later in the ambulance, but before that, she was able to tell her daughter that it was Nick who had attacked them. That heartbreaking detail helped authorities piece the situation together quickly, leading to Nick being taken into custody. Behind that calm exterior, Nick's expression told a completely different story. At one point, he was overheard saying, "I'm not the one causing all this. It's Romy stirring everything up." That single line stunned guests nearby, and it instantly became one of the most repeated quotes from that night. People couldn't stop talking about it, wondering what kind of tension was really brewing between the siblings. Later that same evening, Rob answered a call from his longtime friend Eric Idle, and the tone of that conversation couldn't have been more different. The two shared laughs, tossed around ideas, and chatted about their creative projects, especially the long-awaited Spinal Tap 2. According to Idle, the call was full of excitement and optimism. Rob sounded upbeat, motivated, and totally focused on the future, not distracted by family troubles. But here's the part no one knew at the time.
Michelle died in the ambulance, but had enough time to tell her daughter that it was Nick, their son, who's them. And that's why they figured it out so quickly, and he's in custody.
Earlier that week, Rob had opened up to a close friend, his voice trembling, saying, "Sometimes I don't know how to reach Nick anymore." That quiet confession now feels absolutely chilling in hindsight. Meanwhile, Romy reportedly told someone close to her, "Nick's blaming me for things I didn't even do." It was clear that the tension between the two siblings had been building long before that night, and now every word they spoke only deepened the mystery of what really went down once the Reiners returned home. In the early hours of December 14th, something deeply disturbing unfolded inside the Reiners' beautiful Brentwood home, a moment that would shake everyone who knew them. The Los Angeles District Attorney's Office later confirmed the heartbreaking incident happened before sunrise, though the exact time remained uncertain. The timeline, at best, was hazy. Around 3 p.m. later that day, their daughter, Romy Reiner, who lived right across the street, decided to stop by after trying to reach her parents with no success. The moment Reiner stepped inside the house, she knew something was terribly wrong. The air felt heavy, silent in a way that didn't make sense. Within seconds, she grabbed her phone and called for help. Paramedics and LAPD officers rushed to the scene, their sirens slicing through the calm Brentwood night like an alarm in the dark. Romy, 28 at the time, stayed close as responders entered the home, and what they discovered left everyone shaken. When authorities arrived, they found Rob and Michelle unresponsive, throwing the scene into instant chaos and confusion. The property was immediately sealed off as detectives launched a full-scale investigation, treating the case as a serious domestic emergency from the very start. But then came the shocking discovery. There were no signs of forced entry anywhere. Every door, every window, perfectly intact. Nothing broken, nothing out of place. That one detail flipped the entire investigation on its head. It meant whoever was responsible didn't need to break in. They were either already inside or had been let in willingly. As investigators began digging deeper, they questioned every neighbor on that quiet, tree-lined street. But strangely, no one had heard a single sound that night. No alarms, no yelling, no commotion.
Romy's 28, FYI, but that's a critical piece of the prosecution's case right there, you guys. If it's called a dying declaration, It comes into court, even though it's hearsay, because it's an out-of-court statement by someone.
Just pure, eerie silence. That unsettling stillness only deepened the mystery, leaving everyone wondering how something so serious could happen without a single cry for help being heard. Neighbors described the Reiner home as peaceful and tightly secured, the kind of place where even a small noise would echo down the block. That's why the silence felt so unnatural, so chilling. One investigator even admitted it was too quiet, almost like the whole house was holding its breath. And just when people thought things couldn't get more confusing, a new twist hit the headlines. Nick Reiner broke his silence once again, insisting, "I wasn't even there when it happened. Rami's hiding something. She knows more than she's saying." That one sentence from Nick hit like a lightning bolt, sending shockwaves through everyone following the case. But Rami pushed back hard, denying it completely. She told a close friend, "Nick's twisting everything. He's trying to make me the villain." The feud between the siblings suddenly became front-page drama, and investigators knew they had to dig even deeper. As they examined every clue, one thing became crystal clear. Whoever moved through that Brentwood home that night knew it inside and out. Every step seemed controlled, deliberate, and unsettlingly precise. The silence that night wasn't peaceful. It was the kind of quiet that hides tension so thick it feels ready to snap. Detectives started piecing together a clearer timeline, and soon all attention shifted straight toward Nick Reiner. The pressure on him was intense. In court discussions, the focus turned toward what Rami claimed her mother had told her during those final moments, a statement that, if confirmed, could carry huge weight in front of a jury. According to police reports, Nick left the Brentwood residence shortly after the tragic event, around 4 a.m. on December 14th. Not long after, surveillance footage showed him arriving at the Pearside Hotel in Santa Monica, walking in calmly as if it were just another night. Hotel staff later told investigators that Nick appeared completely composed, polite, quiet, and calm. No shaky hands, no anxious behavior, nothing that screamed panic. One employee even remembered him smiling, chatting casually about the breakfast options, and acting like everything was perfectly normal. But just a few hours later, when detectives searched that very same hotel room after Nick had checked out, they found something that made everyone freeze in shock. According to reports, investigators discovered key evidence inside the room, evidence that connected directly back to what had taken place at the Reiner home.
I'm not blaming their fame and wealth. As I just pointed out, I had a sister who was an addict, and we had no money. So it's not, it's not about that. Like, some people do come into the world with a different body chemistry. I really do believe that can lead them down a dark path.
That single discovery instantly placed Nick right in the center of the timeline and made the entire investigation take a sharp turn. Nick's stay at the hotel was unusually brief, just a few short hours. He checked in quietly, kept to himself, and slipped out again before sunrise, almost as if he didn't want anyone to notice where he was. That pattern raised serious questions. Why such a quick visit, and why vanish so fast? Later that same day, new surveillance footage surfaced showing Nick at a gas station near Exposition Boulevard and Vermont Avenue. The cameras captured him strolling in casually, grabbing a bottle of water, paying at the counter, and heading right back out, like it was just another ordinary day. His demeanor didn't show a hint of panic or guilt. He looked calm, steady, and unreadable, almost too composed for someone surrounded by so much public attention. When reporters later questioned him about that morning, Nick gave a direct answer. "I had nothing to run from. I didn't do anything wrong." Then he added another bold statement. Rami knows what really happened. That comment lit up social media instantly. People online split into two camps, those who believed him and those who thought he was trying to twist the story again. Just hours later, a person close to Rami revealed that she broke down after hearing Nick's words, saying, "Nick's lying again. He's trying to pin this all on me." Photos of Rami began circulating everywhere, and many couldn't help but notice the deep concern and sadness in her eyes. As days went on, people noticed something changing in Nick's appearance. He looked more tense, more withdrawn, as if the weight of everything was pressing down on him. By 9:15 p.m., police had tracked his location near Exposition Park, right next to the University of Southern California campus. For investigators, it felt like the case was closing fast, but Nick insisted it was all a huge misunderstanding that had spiraled out of control. His calm behavior didn't match the chaos surrounding his name, and that contrast left everyone confused. Multiple patrol cars moved into position surrounding the intersection in a carefully coordinated operation that made bystanders stop and stare. Blue and red lights flashed across the dark streets as officers approached Nick Reiner with precision and control. But there was no chaos, no shouting, no dramatic chase. Nick stayed composed, speaking softly and doing exactly what officers instructed him to do. Within minutes, he was taken into custody peacefully, without any sign of struggle or resistance. His quiet compliance stood out. It didn't fit the picture many had already painted in their minds.
As of 2016, Nick had gone to rehab 18 times, which means he was, I think, 22 in 2016. And that means that in 7 years, he went to rehab 18 times.
By the time the night came to a close, detectives were finally starting to connect the puzzle pieces. A heated family disagreement, a silent house with no signs of forced entry, and a trail that stretched across Los Angeles. All of it pointed toward something much deeper than anyone first imagined. Yet one haunting question still refused to fade away. What really happened inside that Brentwood home before sunrise? That's when the investigation took an even sharper, more complex turn. Once the Reiner property was completely secured, forensic specialists moved in, ready to analyze every corner and every trace of evidence inside. They photographed, collected, and documented everything with absolute precision, determined to uncover exactly what took place behind those closed doors. Inside the command center, investigators crowded around monitors and digital maps, trying to reconstruct the night step by step, minute by minute. Soon after, the medical examiner began a detailed timeline analysis, studying every possible clue to establish when each key moment happened. Every tiny temperature shift, every speck of physical evidence, every subtle trace left behind suddenly became crucial. For investigators, each clue carried massive weight. It could mean the difference between truth and speculation. But just as the forensic team began locking in their findings, Nick reportedly told detectives during questioning, "You're wasting time. I didn't do anything. Romy was there after me. Ask her." That statement hit the investigation like a bombshell, throwing everything into disarray. Romy, on the other hand, pushed back hard. According to sources close to her legal team, she told her attorney, "Nick's twisting the truth again. He's just trying to save himself." With both siblings pointing fingers at each other, detectives found themselves in the middle of a family conflict that was turning the case inside out. Forensic experts focused on two critical scientific details to pin down the timeline: rigor mortis, the natural stiffening process after death, and lividity, the way blood settles once circulation stops. These biological markers, though clinical, held the key to understanding exactly when the heartbreaking events had occurred. Behind closed doors, no one truly knows what family struggles unfold. The unspoken frustrations, the emotional distance, and the deep need for connection that sometimes gets lost between loved ones.
And he has been in and out of rehab himself, and now is posting, I guess he's clean and sober at the moment, and he's posting something like Mental Health Mondays posts on his Instagram.
As one expert quietly observed, it seemed like Nick had long felt unheard, struggling to communicate with his father in ways that never quite clicked. The forensic team worked around the clock, poring over every piece of evidence, matching science with time and time with truth. Yet even with all the data in front of them, one chilling fact remained clear. The full story of that night wasn't just written in evidence, it was buried within two very different family versions of the same event. After carefully studying the physical clues and running multiple time-based analyses, the medical examiner reached a conclusion that deepened the mystery even more. Both Rob and Michelle Reiner had likely passed away in the early hours of the morning, nearly 12 hours before anyone found them. The timeline lined up exactly with what detectives had suspected from the start. The tragedy had unfolded in the middle of the night during those quiet hours when the neighborhood slept peacefully, completely unaware of what was happening just a few doors away. From that point on, investigators focused fully on the physical evidence left behind. Forensic experts carefully examined the injuries and confirmed they were caused by a sharp-edged object, likely a knife or a similar household tool. The marks showed that whoever was responsible had been standing very close to the victims, suggesting a face-to-face confrontation carried out at close range. But what truly shocked the forensic team wasn't only the nature of the injuries, it was the pattern and consistency of them. The evidence didn't point to a single quick incident. It indicated that whatever happened had lasted longer than anyone initially believed. The findings revealed a level of intensity and determination that left even seasoned investigators stunned. The official forensic report described the scene in unsettling detail, painting a vivid and emotional picture of what might have taken place inside that quiet Brentwood home that night. It wasn't just a burst of chaos, it appeared to be something drawn out, deliberate, and filled with emotion. One forensic specialist was even quoted as saying, "This wasn't random. Whoever did this stayed until it was over." That chilling line became one of the most repeated lines in the entire investigation, echoing through every media outlet and social feed. When detectives later shared those findings with Nick, his reaction was immediate. His calm broke for the first time as he said, "That's not me. I didn't hurt them. Romy was there after I left. She's the one they should be asking about." Witnesses said his voice cracked mid-sentence, part fear, part exhaustion, part frustration. Romy didn't stay quiet. She reportedly fired back in private, telling a close family friend, "Nick's twisting the truth again. He's just trying to save himself." With both siblings pointing fingers at each other, detectives found themselves in the middle of a family conflict that was turning the case inside out. From a legal standpoint, investigators stayed focused and avoided emotional speculation. They couldn't afford guesses, only solid, verifiable facts. And the evidence now seemed to point toward intent, suggesting that whoever was responsible didn't stop once things began. Even though forensic science helped shape the timeline, the emotional and human side of the story was getting more tangled by the day, especially with Nick and Romy locked in a battle of blame that no one could yet untangle.
Your dad's Rob Reiner, sort of like, isn't it amazing? You got to learn that your dad is Rob Reiner. He did not seem to find it nearly as amusing as the interviewer kind of set him up to express. It looked like he looks like he was struggling with a lot of resentment. And again, it's armchair quarterbacking, but I feel like it's just jumping off of the screen in those interviews, sadly.
Once the forensic reports were finalized, the case escalated fast. Nick Reiner suddenly found himself at the very center of a legal firestorm. Prosecutors officially charged him with 2 counts of first-degree homicide, one for each of his parents. In California, that's among the most serious charges possible, reserved for cases where officials believe the act was intentional and potentially premeditated. The courtroom atmosphere was intense from the very first hearing. Cameras flashed, reporters crowded the hallways, and every whisper inside the room carried weight. But the drama didn't stop there. Prosecutors added special circumstances to the case because it involved more than one victim. automatically moving it into the highest legal tier the system allows. Past records revealed that Nick Reiner had publicly struggled with rehabilitation in earlier years, reportedly attending treatment programs multiple times before turning his life around. That history painted a complicated picture for the defense, showing both deep personal challenges and a long effort toward recovery. Under California law, the addition of those special circumstances completely changed the direction of the case, transforming it from a high-profile tragedy into a full-scale legal showdown. This wasn't just another Hollywood scandal. This was now a battle with the most serious stakes imaginable. If convicted under these charges, Nick could face a life sentence without the possibility of parole, a penalty reserved for the most severe cases. The Los Angeles District Attorney's Office made its position crystal clear. They were treating this case as one of the most consequential investigations in recent Hollywood memory. Prosecutors were confident. They believed the evidence was absolutely solid. Their official statement sent shockwaves through Los Angeles. According to the District Attorney's Office, the forensic findings met every single requirement needed for charges of this magnitude. Overnight, the Reiner investigation shifted from a heartbreaking family story into one of the most talked-about legal battles the city had seen in years. Even with the heavy charges hanging over him, Nick refused to step back. Standing beside his attorney, he made a bold declaration that echoed through the courthouse halls. "I'm innocent. I didn't do this. Romy set me up. She's been twisting things since day one." The moment those words hit the air, every major news outlet replayed the clip non-stop. It became the soundbite that defined the case. Romy didn't stay silent either. Through her legal team, she released a sharp statement of her own. Nick's creating stories to save himself. He knows what really happened in that house. The back and forth between the siblings kept the media in a frenzy, and even prosecutors admitted they'd rarely seen a family dynamic this complicated or this tense. Behind the scenes, detectives had finally locked in a detailed timeline. They now had a verified sequence of events, a confirmed cause of the tragedy, and strong evidence showing that the encounter inside the Brentwood home had been close and personal. With no signs of forced entry and Nick's movements tracked across multiple parts of Los Angeles, the pieces of the puzzle were beginning to form a clear and troubling picture. By the time the pre-trial hearings began, the entire city was watching. Every statement, every leaked document, every courtroom appearance only fueled more speculation. The stage was officially set for a high-stakes trial.
You know, you never know what goes on behind closed doors and how people are. And clearly you have a son there frustrated at not being able to effectively communicate with his own father for whatever reason. You know, that his father couldn't express himself in the way the kid needed.
Where every secret, every accusation, and every hidden truth would finally come out in the open, and the real story behind what happened that night would face the ultimate test in court. When Nick Reiner stood before the judge for the very first time, the entire courtroom went completely still. The silence was so heavy it almost echoed. Every eye in the room locked on him, his plain gray outfit, his stiff posture, and the unreadable look on his face. It wasn't just another routine court appearance. This moment marked the turning point in a case that had already shaken Hollywood to its core. On the morning of December 17, 2025, Nick was escorted into a Los Angeles courtroom under tight security for his initial hearing. Until that point, the entire case had lived behind closed doors, hidden in police files, sealed reports, and quiet legal discussions. But that morning, everything became public. This was the moment when the whispers stopped and the real courtroom battle officially began. From that day forward, every single move, every statement, and every reaction would be preserved in the official record. Nothing could be taken back. Some commentators close to the case pointed out that fame and money don't shield anyone from personal struggles. One even said, "I'm not blaming their fame or wealth. I had a sister who battled addiction and we had no money. It's not about that. Some people just come into the world with a different chemistry that can lead them down a dark path." That raw honesty struck a chord with many following the case, a reminder that no amount of success guarantees peace behind closed doors. The courtroom itself felt like a high-stakes movie set, tense, organized, and tightly controlled. There were no cameras, no live broadcasts, and no press allowed to film. The judge had issued a full media blackout to protect the integrity of the proceedings, keeping every detail sealed inside those walls. Reporters could only rely on sketch artists and whispered notes from those who managed to get a seat inside. Only a small circle of reporters, attorneys, and court staff were permitted inside the room, every one of them watching the doors, waiting for Nick to appear. The rules were strict, the tension was thick, and the atmosphere felt almost cinematic. Then, at last, the double doors opened and Nick Reiner walked in, escorted by 2 deputies who led him straight to the defense table. The soft thud of his footsteps echoed through the silent courtroom, each one adding to the suspense. Nick's face was hard to read, his expression calm but distant. For just a brief second, his eyes flicked toward the gallery, and one reporter later claimed he quietly mouthed, "I didn't do this." That tiny moment exploded online within hours, setting social media ablaze with speculation and debate. As the judge began to read the formal charges, Nick stood still, hands clasped tightly in front of him. A few times he shook his head, as if refusing to accept the words he was hearing. When asked for his plea, he finally spoke, his voice steady and firm. "Not guilty. I loved my parents. I would never hurt them. Romy knows the truth." That declaration sent a ripple through the entire courtroom. For the first time since his arrest, Nick had publicly spoken, and his words turned what had been a quiet Hollywood mystery into a full-scale courtroom drama that the whole country was now watching unfold. But the first thing everyone noticed that morning wasn't his words, it was what he was wearing. Nick appeared in a safety smock, a padded pale gray garment issued to individuals under close monitoring during high-security custody situations. Against the polished wood and crisp suits around him.
And the sister, if you see the pictures of Romy, the sister, I guarantee you she knew. And again, reportedly, she was the one who called the cops and said, "Check out Nick."
It stood out immediately, a stark visual reminder of just how serious things had become. The sight drew quiet reactions from those seated in the gallery, hushed whispers, exchanged glances, and rapid note-taking from journalists. Every detail mattered now, every gesture under a microscope. The guards traded quick glances, but not a single person spoke. Not the judge, not the attorneys, not even the court staff. The hearing carried on as if the unusual smock Nick wore wasn't even there. As the official session began, the entire room fell into total silence. The only sounds came from the soft shuffle of papers and the steady voice of the clerk reading out the charges. 2 counts of first-degree homicide, one for Rob Reiner and one for Michelle Reiner. The words were delivered in a cold, methodical tone. No emotion, no commentary, just the law moving forward with precision. When the judge asked if he understood his rights, Nick's voice came out clear, steady, and respectful. "Yes, Your Honor." That short, composed response was the only time he spoke during the entire hearing. He didn't make a plea that day, didn't glance toward the gallery, didn't flinch, and didn't let a single visible emotion show. He just sat there, back straight, eyes fixed forward, looking like someone lost deep in thought or silently gathering strength. Observers in the courtroom later described his expression as impossible to read, part calm, part detached, almost as if he were trapped somewhere between acceptance and disbelief. The tension in the air was heavy, with every eye locked on his still figure. But what truly grabbed attention came at the very end of the hearing. A journalist seated nearby claimed she heard Nick whisper something under his breath. "I'm innocent. Romy knows it." It was quiet, barely audible, but those few words were enough to ignite a wildfire of speculation. Within minutes, the rumor was out, racing across social media and news sites everywhere. By the time the court session adjourned, that whispered phrase had become headline material. Some took it as a desperate cry for truth, while others saw it as one more twist in an already shocking family tragedy. Once the charges were fully read, the courtroom's attention turned to scheduling. Nick's defense attorney arose and requested additional time before entering a formal plea, explaining that new evidence and witness statements had recently surfaced and needed careful review. The judge agreed without hesitation, officially rescheduling the arraignment for January 7, 2026. The prosecution didn't object. Everyone in that room seemed to understand the gravity of what was unfolding. There was no shouting, no chaos, just a thick, uneasy silence filling every inch of the courtroom. It was the kind of quiet that felt louder than words. During the proceedings, background details about the family began to surface. Reports mentioned that Rob and Michelle had practiced what's often called tough love, setting clear boundaries with Nick. As one insider put it, the parents had told him, "We're not going to keep covering your rent, bills, or lifestyle until you get help." It was a firm but caring approach, one that many believed came from love, not anger. Still, behind that calm courtroom order, the tension was electric. Everyone knew this wasn't close to being over. Nick's whispered claim about Romy, that she knew the truth, had already added a dangerous new layer to the mystery. Reporters in the hallway whispered that the next hearing could bring major revelations that might completely change the course of the case. By the end of that morning, one thing was clear. This was only the beginning. The silence inside that courtroom said more than any headline possibly could. It felt heavy, like the air itself carried the weight of what had just started, the opening act of what promised to be one of the most dramatic courtroom battles Los Angeles had ever seen. Then came the moment that sent ripples through everyone present. After a few quiet minutes, the crowd suddenly realized who was standing beside Nick Reiner. His attorney wasn't a random court-appointed defender. It was Alan Jackson, one of California's most respected and formidable defense lawyers. The instant his name was announced, the energy in the room shifted sharply. Jackson was known for his calm confidence and his long history of taking on high-stakes cases that once dominated national headlines. His client list was stacked with powerful names and complicated stories. Alan Jackson's track record spoke for itself. He'd represented some of the most talked-about names in Hollywood's most controversial trials, including Kevin Spacey, Harvey Weinstein, and Karen Reed, among others. Choosing him sent a message louder than any official press statement. Nick Reiner wasn't backing down. This wasn't some quick legal patch job. This was a full-scale, no-hesitation defense strategy. The kind designed for long, grueling courtroom battles that could drag on for months, maybe even years. It told everyone watching that Nick's team was preparing for intense scrutiny, constant filings, and a tug-of-war over every piece of evidence that might come into question. The moment Alan Jackson's name hit the court record outside the courthouse, reporters went into a frenzy. Phones rang non-stop, social media feeds lit up, and speculation spread like wildfire. One insider was overheard saying, "That's the kind of lawyer you hire when you're fighting for everything. Your name, your future, your life." Meanwhile, a source close to the Reiner family claimed that Romy was shocked when she heard about Nick's powerful new legal lineup. She was reportedly overheard saying, "He's trying to look innocent by going big. He knows he's cornered." That quote became an instant headline, adding even more fuel to an already explosive public narrative. As the hearing wrapped up, Nick was escorted out exactly the way he had entered, quiet, serious, and flanked by 2 deputies on each side. He didn't glance toward the cameras or respond to the barrage of questions being shouted down the hallway. His calm, deliberate silence only made the scene feel even more intense. Neither the defense nor the prosecution made any public statements after the session ended. All that lingered was the buzz of reporters rushing to file their updates and the low murmur of people realizing they'd just witnessed the start of something massive. Within minutes, the courtroom stood nearly empty again. But outside, the real story was just catching fire. By that same afternoon, the spotlight had already shifted away from the legal motions and landed on a brand new question that everyone wanted answered. Who was paying for Nick Reiner's powerhouse defense team?
They did tough love. That's what he's saying here, that the parents said, we are not going to fund your life, your apartments, your landlord, your bills until you get help.
The whispers started fast. Insiders in the legal community pointed out that a case involving 2 first-degree homicide charges with special circumstances could easily stretch on for years and cost a fortune long before the trial even began. Rumors swirled that powerful allies might be stepping in behind the scenes, but nothing was confirmed. Cases like this aren't just emotionally heavy, they're financially massive. They demand top-tier experts, deep forensic analysis, and endless waves of pre-trial motions and filings. Legal insiders estimated that costs like these could hit the $1 million mark long before a single witness even took the stand. The mystery surrounding how Nick was funding his defense instantly became the latest twist in a story already turning Hollywood upside down. Attorneys and analysts began crunching numbers, and most agreed that a defense team of this level easily runs well over $1 million, possibly far more. But that raised one critical question: how? Nick hadn't booked recent acting roles, had no visible income from ongoing projects, and didn't appear to have any brand partnerships or endorsements that could explain footing such massive legal bills. That financial gap between Nick's public career and his courtroom expenses sent the media into overdrive. Speculation exploded across social platforms within hours. Some insiders began whispering that the Reiner family estate might be helping cover the costs. Others immediately questioned whether that would even be allowed under California law, considering the estate was still in legal limbo. Legal experts quickly jumped into the public conversation, calling the situation a gray area, one full of loopholes and legal landmines. On one live panel, an estate lawyer explained, in some cases, shared family assets can be used to cover legal defense expenses, but in other situations, doing so can trigger disputes or even lawsuits between heirs. Another attorney added bluntly, if Nick's using family funds, Romy could legally challenge every single payment made to his attorney. That quote went viral, spreading across headlines and online discussions within minutes. Meanwhile, sources close to the Reiner family revealed that Romy was furious when she learned about the money situation. She confided in a close friend, saying, "He's using funds that don't belong to him. Dad would never have allowed this." The moment that quote hit the press, the story exploded even further. Nick, through his legal team, immediately fired back, releasing a public statement that read, "Every cent spent is legal and fully documented. Romy's just trying to twist things again." That response only added more fuel to the fire, instantly dividing public opinion right down the middle. Inside the courtroom, though, none of this financial drama was mentioned. The judge didn't bring it up, the prosecution didn't press the issue, and Nick's defense attorneys stayed tight-lipped about where the money was actually coming from. The hearing itself stayed calm and strictly procedural, but outside, it was chaos. Debates raged across social media, news shows, and legal panels. Some argued that everyone, no matter the charges, deserves the right to a strong defense. Others were outraged at the idea that family-connected funds might be paying to defend the very person accused in their case. Meanwhile, tension within the Reiner family reportedly grew even sharper. Sources close to the situation claimed that not everyone in the family wanted to see Nick punished punished to the harshest degree. A few relatives were allegedly pushing for compassion, saying they hoped he would receive proper mental health treatment alongside the legal process, instead of only facing severe punishment. That emotional divide revealed just how complicated this case had become. It wasn't just about evidence or legal definitions, it was about family loyalty, guilt, and what true justice really means. The media camped out on the courthouse steps day and night, broadcasting live updates, while fans and critics argued online. Each new leak or insider quote made the situation even messier, and the public couldn't look away. Still, for all the speculation and emotion, none of those claims had been officially confirmed. There were no court filings, no verified documents, and no formal statements from either side. Everything swirling outside the courthouse remained just that: rumor and theory. The rumors kept flying in every direction, but inside the courtroom, the legal process stayed calm and methodical. From the prosecution's perspective, their position was firm and unwavering. They believed their case was rock solid. Prosecutors argued that the forensic findings, Nick's movements, and the established timeline all aligned perfectly to support the most serious charges under California law. They emphasized how intentional the actions appeared to be, pointing out that everything about the evidence suggested a planned and deliberate act, one that fit the state's highest legal standard for intent. And because the case involved two victims from the same event, it automatically triggered special circumstances, pushing the stakes to their absolute limit. If convicted, Nick Reiner faced only two possible outcomes: life in prison without parole, or a permanent sentence with no chance of release. There were no lighter penalties, no second options, no middle ground. This was the most serious path the legal system could take, and everyone knew it. The courtroom tension was thick, even during procedural updates, the kind of atmosphere where every word carried enormous weight. But outside those courtroom walls, the chaos was only getting louder. New anonymous tips began pouring in to local news outlets and detectives alike. Both sides, prosecution and defense, were reportedly working around the clock, quietly building their strategies for what was shaping up to be one of the most intense legal battles Los Angeles had seen in years. Reporters claimed that private investigators had been hired by both teams to dig into hidden angles and background connections that might shift the balance of the case. Meanwhile, whispers of sealed evidence began spreading through the press, the kind of files the public wasn't supposed to see yet. And in the middle of it all, Romy's voice surfaced again. According to someone close to her, she reportedly said, "I just want the truth out, whatever it takes." That statement hit hard. It showed that no matter how messy things had gotten, Romy was determined to see every secret exposed and every unanswered question brought into the light. Nick's legal team wasn't about to back down. They pushed right back, insisting that he was being unfairly targeted from the start. Through his lawyer, Nick released a statement that quickly made headlines. "I'm not guilty. I need understanding, not hate." Romy's twisting the truth to protect herself. Those words lit up every news feed and reignited the debate. Had Nick been villainized too soon, or was this just another calculated move in a growing family feud? Behind closed doors, it was no longer about guilt or innocence. The fight had shifted into something far more complicated, about control, family loyalty, and truth. Both sides were determined to make the world believe their version of the story once this explosive case entered its next phase. Inside the courthouse, the atmosphere might have looked calm and professional, but beneath that quiet surface, pressure was building fast. Everyone could feel it, the kind of tension that sits heavy in the air, just waiting for something to break. It was clear that Nick Reiner wasn't going to stay silent much longer. People who had interviewed Nick in the past began revisiting old footage. One clip in particular resurfaced, an interview where the host had joked about Nick being the son of the famous filmmaker Rob Reiner. The interviewer said something like, "Your dad's Rob Reiner, isn't that incredible?" But Nick's reaction wasn't what anyone expected. He didn't laugh, he didn't smile. Instead, he looked uneasy, his expression clouded with what some described as frustration and distance. Viewers who watched that old clip again couldn't help noticing what now seemed painfully clear. Nick had carried a lot of resentment and emotional struggle beneath the surface. As one commentator put it, "It's easy to look back now and see the signs, the tension, the disconnect. It was all right there on screen." And then, within just a few days, everything shifted again. Attention turned toward an older statement Nick had made, one that suddenly carried a whole new meaning. Those words would completely shake the narrative, rewriting how the world saw both him and the case. It marked what many began calling Nick's shocking revelation. In that statement, Nick spoke with rare honesty about his upbringing. He admitted that despite the fame and privilege around him, he never truly felt close to his father, Rob Reiner. He described feeling a deep emotional gap growing up, a distance that made him feel like he never quite fit in, even within his own family. The case was already full of twists, but this confession added another layer, raw, human, and deeply personal. And now everyone was asking, was this a glimpse of the real Nick Reiner finally emerging, or just another chapter in a Hollywood tragedy still unfolding? If you've been following this intense story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for updates, because the truth behind the Reiner case is far from over, and the next revelation might change everything.